Look, I know what you're thinking. I know how this sounds, okay? You've probably already made up your mind about me, decided I'm the villain in this story, the one who deserves everything that happened. And maybe, in a way, you're right. But just hear me out. Give me a chance to explain, to give you my side of it before you hit that comment section with your pitchforks and your "she deserved it" s. Please. Because it's not as simple as it looks. Nothing ever is. My name is Eleanor. I'm 32. And yes, I blew up my life. I systematically dismantled a decade-long relationship that, on paper, was absolutely perfect. I cheated.
Elite.
I broke a good man's heart, shattered his trust into a million pieces, and in the process, I became someone I barely recognized. But it wasn't because I'm a bad person. Not really. It was because I was drowning, suffocating in a love that felt safe, predictable. It was the kind of love that felt like a beautifully decorated cage, and I just couldn't breathe anymore. Mark and we were a storybook romance, at least to everyone else. We met in college, practically babies, and grew up together. 8 years we were together, 5 of them living in that quaint little bungalow with the rose bushes out front. He was my first everything and I his. He was the kind of man mothers dream of for their daughters. Steady, kind, dependable to a fault. He remembered my favorite coffee order, my mom's birthday, the obscure band I mentioned once when we were 19. He was a golden retriever in human form, endlessly loyal, always happy to see me, perpetually optimistic. Everyone adored Mark. My parents, his parents, our friends. He was the undisputed golden boy of our little circle. And I, by extension, was the lucky girl who landed him. He really was perfect. He cooked dinner every night, or at least offered to. He'd leave little notes for me on the counter before work. He loved me, genuinely, deeply, with every fiber of his being. And that, paradoxically, was the problem. His love was so big, so all-encompassing, it felt like it was swallowing me whole. His attentiveness, which should have been comforting, felt like constant surveillance. His stability, which I'd craved in my turbulent youth, now felt like a suffocating blanket of routine. Our lives were mapped out: Friday night movies, Saturday morning farmer's market, Sunday brunch with his family. Annual trips to the same cabin by the lake. It was predictable, safe, utterly soul-crushing. I started to feel like a character in a play, living out a script someone else had written for me. I wanted spontaneity, chaos, passion, something that would make my heart pound for reasons other than fear of missing the last episode of whatever dreary period drama Mark insisted we watch. I wanted to feel alive, not just maintained. And then Leo walked into my life. Can you believe it? The cliché. I met him at a new gym I'd reluctantly joined. Mark had suggested it, of course, for our health. Leo was everything Mark wasn't. He was a photographer, a total enigma with a crooked smile and eyes that seemed to see right through you. He wore ripped band t-shirts and talked about backpacking through South America, about chasing storms and sleeping under the stars. He laughed at my darkest jokes, the ones Mark would just stare at me blankly after, like I'd suddenly started speaking in tongues. Leo made me feel edgy, dangerous. He was a wildfire, and I was just so tired of being a cozy little hearth. It started innocently enough. Or at least that's what I told myself. Just a shared laugh during spin class. Then a quick chat by the water cooler. Next thing I knew, we were grabbing coffee after workouts, then lunch, then working late because we'd stumbled onto a great conversation. The first time we exchanged numbers, my hands were shaking. I remember looking at Mark's trusting face that night, him asking about my day, and feeling this strange mix of exhilaration and guilt. It was the first lie, a tiny one, but it tasted sweet on my tongue. It tasted like freedom. The text started small. Funny memes, links to obscure articles, then quickly escalated to late-night confessions and vulnerable truths. Leo saw me, really saw me, in a way Mark never seemed to. He listened to my frustrations, not with solutions or reassurances, but with a knowing nod and a cynical smirk. He understood my restlessness, my yearning for something more. Mark, bless his heart, would just say, "Honey, you have everything you need right here. It drove me insane. But Leo? Leo would say, "Yeah, I get it. The world's too big to stay in one place." It was intoxicating. Every secret message, every clandestine coffee, every hushed phone call felt like a shot of pure adrenaline straight to my veins. I was alive. I was electric. I was finally truly myself. The lies became an elaborate tapestry. Working late, girls' night out, visiting my sister, Mark, bless him again, never suspected. He was too busy planning our summer vacation, researching new artisanal coffee machines for our kitchen, talking about putting a down payment on a bigger house. He was so trusting, so utterly devoted, that his unwavering faith in me felt less like a comfort and more like a green light. He was so sure of us, so blind to anything that might threaten our little bubble, that it felt like he was giving me permission. Or maybe I just used his goodness as an excuse for my own bad behavior. Either way, his ignorance fueled my deception, making me feel powerful, almost invincible. I was finally living a life that was mine, a life Mark knew nothing about. The emotional affair inevitably turned physical. It happened on a girls' weekend that was, in fact, a spontaneous trip to a remote cabin Leo knew about, miles from anywhere. The thrill was unbelievable. The guilt was a distant, buzzing fly that I swatted away with every touch, every kiss. For those few days, I was a different person. Uninhibited, reckless, completely consumed by the moment. I convinced myself that this was it. This raw, untamed passion. This was what real love felt like. Mark's steady, comforting love suddenly felt like a lie, a comfortable delusion I had been living for too long. I saw a future with Leo, one filled with adventure and spontaneity, art galleries and late-night talks, a life where I was truly seen, truly alive. I would leave Mark, of course. It would be hard, it would be messy, but it would be for the best. For both of us. Because I deserved this kind of passion, didn't I? What kind of life was it, living in a perfect cage just because it was golden? I imagined the conversations, the tearful goodbyes. I'd be gentle. I'd explain I needed to find myself, that I loved him, but not in the way he deserved. I even rehearsed the lines in my head. I pictured Leo waiting for me, ready to build this new, exciting life. My knight in ripped jeans and a cynical smirk. I was so convinced, so utterly deluded by the intoxicating illusion I created, that I truly believed I was choosing freedom, choosing authenticity. Then, the inevitable happened. After that weekend, Leo started pulling away. First subtly. Shorter texts, longer response times. Then more overtly. Too busy. Gotta shoot, I panicked. I confronted him, pouring out my heart, telling him I was ready to leave Mark, ready to build a life with him. And he just looked at me. His eyes, which had seemed to hold so much understanding, were suddenly cold, distant. He told me, "Eleanor, I thought we were clear. This was fun, an escape, but I'm not looking for anything serious. My ex, well, she wants me back. We're giving it another shot just like that." The fantasy, the beautiful, exhilarating lie I'd built, shattered into a million pieces at my feet. I had burned down my entire life for a fling, for a temporary distraction. And the worst part? I hadn't even had the guts to tell Mark yet. The universe, it seems, has a dark sense of humor. Or maybe it just has an impeccable sense of timing. Because I didn't have to tell Mark. He found out. Not through my tearful confession, not through my carefully worded explanation. He found out on his own. I'd been so careful, so meticulous in deleting messages, clearing browser history, but I'd forgotten one tiny, crucial detail: the receipt. A hotel receipt from that cabin weekend, tucked into the pocket of a pair of jeans I'd thrown into the laundry basket. Mark, ever the dutiful partner, found it while sorting our clothes. I remember the moment. I was in the kitchen making dinner, some bland pasta dish, probably. He walked in, silent, and just placed the crumpled receipt on the counter between us. He didn't yell. He didn't scream. There were no theatrics. His voice, when he spoke, was impossibly calm, colder than any ice I'd ever felt. Eleanor, he said, his eyes drilling into me. I wasn't blind. I was waiting. He then proceeded to lay out the timeline. The late nights, the unexplained absences, the new numbers on my phone he'd subtly noticed and looked up. The way my eyes would dart away when he asked about my day. He'd known for weeks, maybe even months. He'd just been gathering the evidence, piecing it together, meticulously, quietly, while I spun my web of lies around him, convinced I was the master deceiver. The betrayal wasn't just my cheating. It was the chilling realization that his trust wasn't blind. It was a test I'd failed spectacularly. He ended it with a finality that still echoes in my bones.
No negociations, no tears, no begging.
Just a quiet, absolute get out. We're done. By the time I recovered from the shock, he'd already moved my things to a storage unit, changed the locks, and blocked my number. My keys were on the counter, neatly placed with a short, impersonal note that simply said, "Your deposit is in your account." He cut me out completely, surgically, cleanly, as if I were a tumor he'd finally decided to excise. The silence that followed was deafening. And just as swiftly, Leo, the exciting mirage, also vanished. He ignored my frantic calls, my desperate texts. The last I heard, through a mutual acquaintance, he'd gotten back together with his ex and was focusing on his art, of course. The aftermath was a slow, painful descent into absolute loneliness. Our mutual friends, the ones I'd shared a decade of memories with, quietly but firmly chose Mark's side. How could they not? He was the victim, and I was the villain. Invitations stopped coming. Calls went unanswered. The few who did respond were cold, their voices laced with judgment. "How could you, Eleanor?" my closest friend, Sarah, had asked, her voice tight with disgust. "Mark would have given you the world." My own family, while not completely disowning me, kept a palpable distance. My mother, usually my fiercest defender, simply looked at me with a sadness that spoke volumes, a disappointment more crushing than any anger. I tried for a while to explain myself. To Mark, to Sarah, to anyone who would listen. I sent Mark long, rambling texts, emails. I even showed up at his new apartment once, only to be met by his brother, standing guard at the door, his face a stone mask. "He's not seeing anyone, Eleanor. Especially not you." It was a wall. An impenetrable, unyielding wall of rejection. I had burnt my bridges, and now I was stranded. And then the news started trickling in. Bits and pieces, through the whispers of people who hadn't completely cut me off, or through social media I stalked compulsively. Mark was thriving. Not just coping, but genuinely thriving. He'd gotten that big promotion he'd been working towards, the one I'd always scoffed at as just another corporate ladder. He'd started working out, and the pictures I saw showed a leaner, healthier Mark with a confidence I'd never seen in him. He was actually traveling to exotic places, not just the same old cabin. He looked lighter, happier, as if a great weight had been lifted from his shoulders. And that's when I knew I had been the weight. My dissatisfaction, my restlessness, my very presence had been holding him back. The real gut punch came a few months later. I ran into Mark's mother at the grocery store. I tried to duck away, but she saw me. Her face, usually so warm and welcoming, hardened into something I barely recognized. "Eleanor," she said, her voice quiet, but every word a razor blade. "I loved you like my own daughter. We all did. And you broke his heart. You shattered him. He deserved better than you. And thank God he got it." She didn't yell.
She didn't have to.
The quiet fury, the absolute conviction in her voice, was more devastating than any screaming match. It was the truth, delivered without a shred of pity, and it hit me like a physical blow. Sometimes I still try to justify it. I tell myself I had to break free, that I was stifled, that I deserved to feel alive. I tell myself that Mark couldn't handle me, couldn't give me the passion I craved, that Leo was just a catalyst who helped me realize what I truly wanted. I tell myself that I don't regret wanting more, wanting a different kind of love, a different kind of life. And maybe, in some twisted, self-serving way, that's true. I did learn something, I suppose. I learned what it feels like to lose everything, to be completely and utterly alone, with only my choices to keep me company. Because that's where I am now. Alone. Mark is engaged. I saw the announcement on his sister's Instagram. A beautiful woman, vibrant and kind, looking at him with adoration. They're planning a family. He looks happier than he ever did with me.
And here I am.
Stuck in a life that isn't exciting, isn't passionate, isn't anything I thought I wanted. It's just quiet. Empty. I threw away a good man, a loving home, a stable future, for a fleeting fantasy, for a selfish pursuit of something I couldn't even articulate. And now, all I have left is the echo of what I destroyed, and the bitter, bitter taste of my own regret. And the knowledge that he's better off without me. Which is, I suppose, the ultimate irony, isn't it?